Here we are, gathered once again, the Indy Sports Show Live. I'm your host, Brian Pointer. It's been a great day here at the 65th Annual Ford Boat Sport and Travel Show. Crowds have been bigger and better than ever. We're in the Champions Pavilion. Stop in, grab a seat, pay attention to some of the great pro staff, seminar speakers, legends. We've had some true legends on this couch this morning and this afternoon, and we're going to do this all again tomorrow morning, or tomorrow all day, actually. We're here in the Travel Cafe. The beautiful thing about the Boat Sport and Travel Show is it doesn't matter if you're an expert, it doesn't matter if you're a novice. There is something here for you where you can increase your skills, get to know somebody. It's a bunch of like-minded people gathering, having a great time at the 65th Annual Ford Boat Sport and Travel Show, another Renfro production. With me now is truly what makes the Boat Sport and Travel Show the Boat Sport and Travel Show. It's the vendors. It's the people that are in the buildings, talking to the customers, having the opportunity to sell them goods that they want to get out on the water or take with them into the field. Reed Culler is with us, and the Angler is up in northeastern Indiana.
Yes, just north of Fort Wayne. We're in between Angola and Fort Wayne. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I wanted to do this for a number of reasons. We're going to talk a little ice fishing, which they do a lot more of up there than they do down here.
They still are.
But what is the Boat Sport and Travel Show like? This is your first year experience. You're a family-owned business. You're an entrepreneur. You've been around the 35 years. You've owned the business for the last 5. Why come to the Boat Sport and Travel Show?
So it was an opportunity, obviously, for us to market our business, but also we never know if we're going to get ice where we're at in Northeast Indiana. We're right on the southern portion of the belt. So some years we'll have ice, some years we won't have ice. And so for us, it was looking very scarce this year, and we're probably not. We thought we weren't going to get it. So we're like, we're going to try to come down here and test our selling ability down here in Indy.
See what kind of stamina you have down at the Boat Sport and Travel Show.
Yeah.
But let's focus on this just for a second. You're in a tough retailing business. I mean, the world is changing all the time, and competition's bigger and better. A lot of the folks that are over there in Tackletown next to you are doing the same thing you are. Yes. How do you try to differentiate yourself?
So for us, it's customer service driven completely. I've had numerous people walk in and thank me for walking them through what a 6'6" medium light rod does. Like what kind of fish you want to catch with it, what kind of line do I need with it. People appreciate that, and I think that's why they actually come to these shows to get a little bit of education as well, and that's kind of what we do a really good job at.
When you walk into your store, the Angler, what do they come in there and what are they looking for? What's your sweet spot? What are you selling?
So, we do a lot of different brands. We're a high-end tackle shop, so we specialize in that $200 to $400 rod, and we specialize in that $100 to $300 reel. All high-end tackle. The bass guy comes into us because of our knowledge. I'm an avid bass fisherman myself. Growing up from when I was 14 all the way up until I made the All-American when I was 18 years old, fishing for bass. So,
and then let me guess, you had kids.
And then I had kids. I went to college, obviously, graduated, got married, had kids. I was actually a sales rep, so I worked this show as a sales rep for like 6-7 years. I was a sales rep for Minn Kota and Humminbird.
Okay.
And so I worked this show. I knew what it was about. I knew the amount of people that came into this show, and that was, to answer your question from earlier, that's another reason why I knew that there was 70,000 people that come through this place.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
It's very impressive.
You don't do something for 65 years putting on this type of a production unless you're doing something right. And that's what I'm hearing you're trying to do and creating your legacy at the Angler. And, instead of what people are buying, because I'm sure you've got it all, as you said over there, when someone walks into your booth, what are the first 2 or 3 questions that you try to ask of them to help them get into the right combination?
That's a good question. So that's what I drive to my employees too, is like ask them questions. Ask them what their first question is, like what kind of rod are you actually are looking for as far as price point and that type of stuff. And then secondly, what kind of fish are you going for, right? So that's two, obviously. Kind of lost the train of thought on where I was going with that, but the big thing is to ask them.
Ask questions.
Ask questions. Try to figure out what that customer is looking for.
And I'm sure somewhere along the line, trying to match the right gear at the right price, because not everybody's going to walk in and buy that $400 rod.
Right.
They don't need it.
Right.
Plus, you're doing a good thing for the local community. A lot of lakes up in northeastern Indiana.
101 in the surrounding 2 counties of us, and
that's job security.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
So ice fishing, it's kind of an oxymoron. It seems like this year, one stretch it'll be 20 below zero, not enough probably to create enough good ice. Then it rains and it's 60 degrees. Ice petrifies me. What do you tell people about ice fishing? What do they need to be aware of?
So the big thing is snowfall. Water temperature in early November will get cold enough to where it'll freeze. But once you get into December, you get those sub-zero days, and you need anywhere from 3 to 4 of those 0 to -degree days to get 2 to 3 inches of ice. And that's where I would say safe ice, 3 inches of good, hard, solid ice. But what happened this year was we had 2 inches of solid ice, and then what happened was we got a lot of snow. So snow creates an insulation on it, and basically you put 6 inches of snow on top of 3 inches of ice. I don't care if it's -20, it will not freeze anymore. And that's what happened this year, and that's why safety is a huge thing. We sell so many float suits now. If you're going out on early ice, I strongly recommend having a float suit. And every Ice Harbor makes a brand, or makes a style.
What is a float
Striker
suit?
Ice. So they build the flotation right into they sew it right into the garment. It's actual ballast flotation.
I'm not sure I'd want to be a test pilot for that.
It works. I've had guys come in and say, yeah, I fell through today, and I think they push the edges a little more than what they should at times because they feel so confident, but you got to think of hypothermia as well.
Yeah.
So the thing I like to stress to people, if you're talking just safety, is know the weather and the snowfall. Keep an eye on the snowfall.
What is safe ice?
Safe ice is 3 inches of ice in reality.
And we've had some other folks up here on the couch in the last couple of days that we've been doing this that talk about the ice moving and shifting, and it's always you always got to pay attention.
Yeah, so that's more on the Great Lakes is what you'll get with that, because Lake Erie, we're close enough to Lake Erie where we know a little bit about it, but that lake very, very rarely will freeze 100%. So what happens is if you get ice on the south side of Lake Erie, if you get a south wind, it'll actually blow that whole chunk of ice. It could be miles of ice. It'll blow it all the way across the lake, and there won't be any ice.
Cheap cab ride.
Yeah. Good luck getting back.
So I have fond memories of northeastern Indiana. My aunt and uncle lived on Lake Hamilton in Angola.
Great bass fishery.
Exactly. And when I was a young kid, I remember the ice shanties and the ice towns that would be created on the lake. Mm-hmm. I mean, hundreds of homemade shanties with people out there ice fishing. Does that still happen?
It does, but the last 3 years we haven't had the ice to do it in that area. Now, if you go north a couple hours, you'll get a little better ice. But on Hamilton, you haven't seen Lake James. You haven't seen those that thick of ice. This year, we only got up to 8 inches of ice. You're not driving a car on 8 inches of ice.
Yeah, I saw those people doing that, and ice isn't my friend. It scares me. I don't, unless I know that it's really, really, really thick ice.
Right.
They'd be driving their cars, their snowmobiles, and have these massive little shanties. And some of these that I've seen up in like Minnesota where they have good ice fishing.
They put stop signs out.
Yeah, there's roadways.
Yep.
And you want to talk about, this isn't like a little pop-up blind. These guys have cooking in there and TVs in there and couches. That's my kind of ice fishing. Yeah,
so now they really don't do that. So mainly what they're doing now is they're using a flip over or a clam style flip over shelter.
Yeah.
So they're mobile. so they can take that out there, you know, have a spinning combo, or if they want to use an inline reel, light line, and they can fish for bluegill, or they can get out of their shack and go mobile and jig for bass and do that type of stuff as well.
So the equipment that you need is a little different.
Yeah, basically it's a different style than if you would go north where you're setting up a permanent shelter. You're more mobile, chasing the fish around, using your electronics.
Generic, what are the 3 or 4 things that you would need just if you wanted to get out, come into your store, say, listen, I'm going to go ice fishing. I know they've got some skimmers and augers and little poles, little reels. What do you need?
All those things. I mean, those are your necessities, right? So, you know, a good auger, a good rod and reel combo. One combo would do it. A few jigs to kind of mix in the bunch. Good quality line, and you're on the lice.
So, what are some things about, you know, owning a family business and the outdoor world? What's the hard part?
The hours.
Oh, that.
Yeah. So I mean, we put a lot of hours in to make it successful. It doesn't. You're not just sitting there and everything.
You had hair before you owned it, right?
Yeah, I actually had hair, got married, and then I lost it all. So maybe it was the marriage. I don't know. My wife's great. So.
And you have young kids. Did you get out and do any ice fishing this year?
So I did not. So because of the way our ice season was set up. You know, I talk about that being in the store, like, you know, when people are coming in to see the owner, I got to be there. So I didn't get an opportunity this year because we only had a short time to ice fish. And then obviously I've been down here 10 days, so they're still ice fishing at home now.
So can you catch anything under ice?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I would say.
So it's not like if a normal lake produced a certain species, you're still going to be able to catch that in the wintertime.
Yes. Yep.
I'm going to have to do some ice fishing. I think that's in my future. But only if there's 8 inches of
float
ice.
Suit.
And are you going to put a float? I am a living float suit. Are you kidding me? Anyway, I can't thank you enough, Reed, for being with us. The Angler, go up and see him. Northeastern Indiana. They're a first-time vendor here at the 65th Annual Ford Boat Sport and Travel Show. Go visit him in Tackletown. He's telling me they're selling rods and reels and combos. Can't keep them in stock. So stop in, tell him you saw him or heard him on Facebook Live. It is the Indy Sports Show Live, and I am your host, Brian Pointer. But before we go anywhere, I'm teasing something. We have a very special guest, very last one of the day. You're not going to want to miss this. Rumor has it, Twiggy, the water skiing squirrel, is going to be on the couch. We'll be back later.